like everybody to take a moment and think back to a time when you were committed. No, I'm not talking about like, oh, I'm motivated or I'm interested. I mean, actually committed. The type of commitment where you're willing to lose sleep, money, relationships. Maybe you're even willing to sacrifice and negatively impact your own health just to get to the end goal. Take a moment, think back, and find that moment when you were committed. Now, as you think of that time, I want you to think about the people that were around you. Did they lean in? Or did they pull back and pull away? Did they stay away from you? Did you bring others with you and lift them up? Or did you push them away and place the blame on them? You see, some people in this room, including myself, have been labeled too much, too intense, too serious. You're too urgent. Why do you act like life is so short? Then there's another group of you who have been on the receiving end of someone else's intensity, or their too much ingredient, if you will. And in that time, it doesn't feel like inspiration. It probably feels like it's overwhelming. It's daunting. It's like this mounting pressure that you don't know what to do with. And then there's a third person. This individual is serious. They do have a sense of urgency, but they're scared to commit because of societal reasons, or maybe, just maybe, they haven't been taught how to harness this energy, how to direct it, how to use it in a positive manner, in a positive fashion to impact positive change. See, so what I would say here is the real question, is it intensity? Or is it how we aim it? Is it where we direct it that determines the effectiveness? You see, we live in a society that has a cultural issue. We celebrate Olympians, and then we call the dedication for them to get where they're going obsession, right? We celebrate CEOs and founders, but then we label our hardworking colleagues as hard to work with or hard to deal with, when really we're just projecting the fact that maybe we can't keep up. But there's a plot twist. And with that being said, there's a governing rule that I want to offer all of you. And that rule is that intensity, in and of itself, that being, that thing, that intensity, it's morally neutral. It doesn't have an opinion. The intensity goes where you direct it to go. Intensity isn't positive or negative until it's impacted by human nature. So what we need to understand here is that it's the vessel in which the energy is contained, not the energy or the intensity itself. The difference is not the fuel, and it almost never is. It's the vessel in which it is contained and the direction in which it is aimed. And when energy isn't guided, it creates pressure. It can be dangerous. It feels dangerous because it is. The potential for a mishap or a hazard or a misstep or to negatively impact somebody with intensity is real. And when energy isn't guided, it's not going to create progress. In fact, it could impede paralyzation. Some people shut down under pressure, especially if they haven't been trained or taught how to navigate it. So, I learned this lesson the hard way. I served 14 years in the United States Navy. I served on 4 different aircraft carriers, spent thousands of days at sea floating in the ocean. Simultaneously, I had gotten married, had 2 children, and I was building a real estate business on the side for a decade of that 14 years. And for 30 years of my life, I thought that intensity was the secret I thought being intense was my superpower. Because after all, that was how I made it out of being born into addiction, being raised as a ward to the state as a foster child, not being raised by either one of my biological parents, and mustering the confidence and the wherewithal to say, I'm going to leave this place and find a better life through the Navy. Intensity helped me do all of that. I was so serious because these systems inside my body were built through trauma and difficulty and tribulation, and some that many couldn't even imagine. But what I found in this time was that conversations got shorter, relationships grew strained, and the people around me were feeling pressure. They weren't feeling momentum. They weren't feeling inspiration. Maybe they were feeling inferior. And whose fault was that truly? And the main thing that I didn't realize at the time is that commitment and execution were not alone enough, as I always thought they were. The more key component and the most important piece of that is how you do it. How you show up, how you execute matters just as much, if not more, than mission completion itself. My passion, my intensity, my abilities, my desire, my ambition, everything that I wanted in life that I never had, I had the skills to go get it, but I had to face a very uncomfortable truth. They weren't guided. There was no manual. Nobody said, hey, poor orphan boy from Dayton, Ohio and Boston, Massachusetts, go figure this all out. Go figure out how to be a sailor, a father, a husband. And then, oh, by the way, when that crumbles, you're going to have to figure out some other stuff again. Okay, so we're at this point in my life where after 14 years of honorable service, I go through a very strenuous divorce. And during that divorce, it also created a battle with the Navy. So I spent 9 months of my life on the tail end of 14 years of honorable service, running from a past that nobody wants. And the culmination of it was a 9-month battle to maintain my dignity and integrity as the honorably serving sailor that I had been, as the father and the husband that I was, as the father that I desired to continue to be. And in this time, I was homeless, estranged from my homes, $1.2 million worth of real estate that I couldn't even go to. At the time, nobody in my family owned a house. I didn't even know what it meant to own a home, much less own and operate a $1 billion real estate brokerage at this point in my life, right? So I was chasing the one thing that seemed to be risky or crazy to everyone else. At the end of that battle, I was left with a choice. And that choice was this. I could re-enlist in the Navy. I could play it safe. I could do what I had known for the last 14 years and just ride it out. And then on the other hand, a business plan, or what I thought was a business plan. I didn't really know. I read some books. I sold a few houses. I was qualified. I thought, hey, if I do that for a living, I could spend time with my kids. I don't have to go on deployment anymore. Well, hey, I'm getting divorced. I'm not answering to anybody. I can go chase my dreams, right? So either I concede to comfort or I chase all my dreams and desires. But the biggest part of that decision really was I just wanted to maintain my dignity. I refused to serve alongside people that just tried to burn me at a stake, who then want to turn around and call me a brother or sister when you just watched me in pain. So I made a decision that day that I was going to get out of the Navy. I had been demoted, degraded, estranged, sleeping on my friend's couch, paying child support as a present father who never wanted to not be there. All of these things that can make you angry, that can make you insane. You could drink it away, you could smoke it away, or you can figure it out. So that was my pivot. Not my first one, as you heard earlier, Been through a lot of pivots in my life. I was always the new guy, always in a new place, always had to figure it out, always had to learn a new family. But this pivot was different. For 14 years, the Navy was my family. I was a chief petty officer. To many of you, that probably doesn't mean much. To someone who served in the Navy, especially as an enlisted service member, it means the world. And I had to go from a chief petty officer to a chief executive officer. And when you make it through all these things, and you make these transitions, and you make these pivots, if you will, people label it. In fact, professors and psychologists, and even a previous TEDx talk, would call what I'm talking about grit. The power of perseverance toward long-term goals. With passion, right? But here's the critical factor and the key component in all of that research. Grit only predicts success when it has an aiming point, when it has an end game, a long-term goal. So your grit doesn't matter if it's not directed, just like your intensity doesn't matter if it's not directed. And I would argue that it's unguided tenacity. You see, some of you might be asking, how do I know if my intensity is hurting other people or hurting me or negatively impacting those around me? So I'm going to give you a gift today. Some questions that I wish I would have asked myself a whole lot sooner. What is my intensity attached to? Is it attached to a goal? Is it attached to materials? Is it attached to greater impact? Who is my intensity affecting? Is it my family? Is it my friends? Is it my colleagues? Right? And then lastly, what's the horizon? Where's my energy going? Is there an end game, or are you just running on the hamster wheel of life? Because what I've learned in 38 years of real life experience is that intensity without a horizon feels urgent. And tenacity with a horizon, well, that feels steady. But there's another pivot in my life, and it's the largest pivot of my life. And it just so happens that we get to talk about it here, discussing the power of pivot. My largest pivot in life was the realization that through life and through all of my trials and tribulations and the turbulence and even the triumphs, it was leading me to understand that my intensity must be transformed into tenacity. Tenacity was the vital ingredient to every pivot I made, to every success that I had. Almost like a superpower. But let's be clear. This talk is not about allowing you to be more intense or telling you to be louder or harder. No. That's way too easy. This talk is actually about all of us taking responsibility for where our energy lands. So let's expand our minds to accept and understand those around us who possess the unique gifts and talents of intensity, audacity, ferociousness, ambitiousness, vision, execution, the engine, the motor to actually complete the task at hand. We should celebrate those people, but we can also direct them. And we can also educate ourselves to receive the energy that they're putting off in a better, more productive fashion. You see, because when intensity is shaped by discipline and purpose, it becomes tenacity. And I have defined tenacity as the power of sustained superior resilience. Sustained superior resilience is required to execute the power of a pivot, and pivot is required for progress. Thank you for attending our TEDx event, and thank you for listening to my TED Talk.